What is up everyone, Maxlin here and welcome back to my channel. This is the fourth episode of Themindhere, a series where I discuss the process and work that goes into my transcription videos, give an update on my current transcription progress, and talk about other related subjects that come to mind. If this is your first time here, welcome! I release piano versions of songs on almost a quarterly basis, and these videos bi-weekly. If you're enjoying my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. Alright, when we last left off, most of the piece was already finished. The melody was pretty much complete, the chords were in place, and most of the bass patterns were finished. So the work I had to do now was pretty much just finalizing and polishing the piece. The last little bit of bass I had to hammer out was towards the very end, about measures 98 through 124. There, I left some half-note chords so I knew what I was working with. Initially, I left the half-note chords all the way until the Defiant section, but as I'll explain later, I decided against that. The Defiant section was actually pretty similar to an earlier section halfway through the piece, but I decided to give this section a different feeling. Of course, because they were similar, I was able to copy over the structure of that section. Basically, I just copy-pasted that bass section and tinkered around with it. Since I wanted it to feel more defiant, I chose to use some low octaves or fifths and stuck with the powerful quarter notes. I decided to change up those earlier half notes thanks to a suggestion from a friend. He has a YouTube channel, by the way, and I highly suggest checking him out. He posts videos more regularly than I do, which doesn't say much, let's be honest. And his music is all his own composition. I'll link his channel in the description below for anyone who's interested. Anyways, he listened to the piece and suggested I spice up that section since it was a bit dull with only half notes. This was after the polishing and right before I was going to release the transcription, by the way. But not wanting to be a sunk cost fallaciest, I went back and changed it again. Of course, if the original song was like that, I'm not sure if I would have changed it, but I did hear quarter notes in the original song too, so that's why I took the second set of half notes in each measure and revised them. Great, so with the melody and bass of the piece done, it was time for some fine-tuning. The first thing I did was check if the dynamics worked out. I had already put in some dynamics during earlier transcription stages when it was obvious that I needed to change it, but it wasn't complete. This fine-tuning part is where I listen to the entire song over and over again in order to get a holistic feel. Once the dynamics were established, I lowered the volume of the bass section. This is something I can do with Musescore that just makes the music sound nicer when I publish it. The melody, after all, should be the focus of the piece and not the bass. I can edit all the bass notes and lower their velocity, which means volume, relative to what the dynamics tell them to do. The last thing I did was to make sure that the notation was nice. Thanks to my music theory classes, I've been able to make the recent sheet music a lot nicer to read by correctly barring the notes, something that Musescore can't do on its own. I also filled in any rests that didn't need to be there, just for stylistic sake. When I was satisfied with how it all looked and sounded, it was good to go. Now, something new to note in this piece compared to the rest of my transcriptions so far, besides the emphasis words above the bar lines, is that I made the sustain pedal marks invisible. For most of my other pieces, I left them visible to tell people where they should use the pedal. Recently, though, I used the phrase simile to express a pattern of sustain pedal marks that would persist just so the page wouldn't be cluttered with those lines. This piece, I decided to remove them entirely, and for two reasons. The first is that it freed up the page and made it look nicer. The second was that I wanted to leave the pedal usage up to the pianist. I know that when I play pieces, I'll change where to use the pedal slightly for my own taste, and for the most part, I can just fill in the pedal as I play. So really, the sustained pedal mark didn't add anything to the piece, which is why I took them out. With regard to this video, I realized two things that I'll improve on in the future. The first and most obvious is that this video is entirely in window capture, where I only recorded the Musescore software. I forgot to change it over to display capture, which captures everything that happens on the screen, so unfortunately, this video may seem a bit bland to look at. I'll remember to change this in the future so the video will be a bit more enticing. The other area of improvement is that I noticed it would be sort of hard to visualize my transcription process simply by talking at you. Now, since these videos aren't just for me, but for my audience as well, I'll make sure to create a visual or something in the future so it's easier to follow what I'm saying. We'll see in the next video. Regardless, I'm still happy with how things have improved so far in these videos. In the last video, I invited you all to ask me any questions you had, and Alfred Prose had a good one. Basically, he asked how school affected my transcriptions and if I preferred to not go to school and just do this instead. First off, thank you for the question, Alfred. I appreciate you watching my videos and giving me feedback. So about school, does it affect my transcriptions? Well, yeah, it does, because 5 out of the 7 days are out of question for transcribing. But this is unavoidable since I'm still in high school. Next year will be a bit different though, since I'm going to college, but again, it'll likely be the same unless there's no studio around, which would be really bad. And here's the thing, I really do enjoy making music, but that's not really my priority. Music is more of a side gig, an important one, but still not the focus. So although in some ways I would prefer having less school, that might not mean I'll have more time for transcribing, since I'd likely be doing other things like doing an internship or working. As for now, I'm pursuing an engineering career path, so that is my focus. Well, right now I'm doing college apps, but ultimately my career goal comes before anything else. But with that being said, music is my way of relaxing, doing something new and differentiating myself from other engineers or people like me. Unless there's a serious change in path, this will likely be the extent to the frequency of posts and music videos. But hey, even though this is a side project, I'm still putting tons of effort into it. I like it, and it won't likely be going away anytime soon. Alright, so with that being said, I'd like to thank all of you who made it to the end. Since I finished the transcription I was working on, there's no preview to show you all, but I encourage you to take a look at the new release and let me know what you think of it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to let me know in the comments section. Have a good day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.